Hi, South Africa. Thanks for tuning in. So, like yesterday, like something happened between the Dudula representative Zandile and a news anchor. So she fumbled like a question that they asked. So let's take a listen to what they asked.
Ms. Dubula, let me just ask an open-ended question. If I say frontline states, what comes to mind and what can you say in relation to that?
So now this is about the people. We have this Freedom Charter where Operation Dudula is entrenching the Freedom Charter that says people shall govern. And currently we don't have leaders. We are on autopilot, and that's where Operation Dudula comes in.
No, I'm asking about frontline states.
Frontline states. So so this is about. Are you now taking this together with
If I say to you frontline states, from a historical perspective, what comes to mind as we have this conversation?
The frontline states, I would believe it's about the people in power.
Let me ask you. You obviously doesn't know what a frontline state is.
Okay.
She obviously doesn't know what a frontline state is.
Yeah, so that's the viral interview with the Operations Dudula leader Zandile Dubula, who struggled to explain what frontline states is during the live broadcast. So after this interview, this sparked a large or massive debate across South Africa about political knowledge, leadership and accountability. In a time where streets are buzzing with activism and the call for send foreigners back home grows louder, such moments remind us that leadership requires more than just slogans and toyatoying. It requires historical understanding, discipline and emotional intelligence. Yes, for those who might not know, frontline states refer to African countries that surrounded South Africa or a country that's within a conflict, like South Africa did during apartheid. Countries such as Zambia, Tanzania, Mozambique, Botswana, Angola, and Zimbabwe, nations that supported South Africa's liberation during apartheid. These were the nations that stood on the front line of the struggle of African freedom. So when a political leader such as Zandile cannot explain something like that, it raises questions about her political depth and revolutionary credibility. So, like what Zandile stumbled, it exposes some of the movements that may be driven by emotion and popularism, and not about helping the people like on the ground level. So yeah, I think as South Africa must do better when selecting some of these leaders. I agree with the movement, but I think as herself she must like get the facts right. So South Africa, what we've just witnessed, it wasn't just a mistake, it was a mirror actually. It shows us the urgent need for political education within South Africa or about the activism movements that's happening left and right. Many people agree with Operational Dudula's frustration about illegal migration and poor service delivery, but when the movement's leadership lacks grounding in Africa's history and ideology, the message loses its power. Real revolution is not built on anger alone, it's built on knowledge, strategy, and compassion. True leadership starts with humanity and encourages to say, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. Maybe, just maybe, that's the lesson that we should learn from this viral moment. So let's take a look at all this compilation of how South Africans reacted to the viral clip.
Ms. Dubula, let me just ask an open-ended question. If I say frontline states, what comes to mind and what can you say in relation to that?
So now this is about the people. We have this Freedom Charter where Operation Dudula is entrenching the Freedom Charter that says people shall govern. And currently we don't have leaders. We are on autopilot, and that's where Operation Dudula comes in.
No, I'm asking about frontline states.
Exactly.
Frontline states. So so this is about. Are you now taking this together with?
If I say to you frontline states, from a historical perspective, what comes to mind as we have this conversation?
The frontline states, I would believe it's about the people in power.
Let me ask you. You obviously doesn't know what a frontline state is.
Okay.
She obviously doesn't know what a frontline state is.
Exactly. And this is the problem in South Africa. Loudmouth, 30% matric pass, mediocre people who feel entitled to jobs. She is the head of a political party and feels entitled to go to parliament just because she expresses hate for foreigners. She's got no skills, nothing to offer, but just hatred. And there will be people that will vote for this particular person to go into parliament. This is what we're seeing in South Africa. She's unemployable, clearly. And now when people don't get employment in the private sector that doesn't tolerate this ignorance, they go into politics and they're voted for just by merely hating foreigners. Frontline states are the countries that I always tell you about that border South Africa, the neighbors of South Africa, that went to war with the Boers and defeated the Boers in the border wars in order to free South Africa. But no, you don't listen to me. You can listen to Aikumalo, you listen to Dubula, you
lo mbuzo bengimbuzile bafethu ukuthi la bantu aba-against lo la bantu abangafuni lo ama-South Africans na yabo. So lo uyangiphendula-ke uthi yebo ama-South Africans, but ama-South Africans afundile yabo. So okuchaza ukuthi abantu abasapota lo abasapota iDudula abantu abadoma abafundanga nje. Shuthi nonke nina nisapota nje iDudula uthi uTK nidoma anifundanga. So bafethu mina ngifisa ukwazi ukuthi niyavumelana yini noTK ukuthi abantu abasapota iDudula abantu abangafundanga.
Awu bethunana waze wahlazeka uZandile Dubula nkosi yami, waze wahlazeka kumphethe kwejournalist nkosi yami, kwam-exposer ukuthi she's just nothing, an empty vessel making the loudest noise in the room. Waze wahlazeka nkosi yami uZandile Dubula wenkosi shem. Like mina, my question is, how do you claim to be revolutionary and leading a revolution but you don't even understand the history of that revolution you claim to lead? You know, that's the biggest problem with you people of South Africa. You're looking for someone who will seem like they're doing something, but they're doing nothing. Now, the reason why you followed Zandile Dubula is just because you are saying foreigners must leave, and install that idea that foreigners are the one that makes you not to work in South Africa while your government is not doing anything. Yeah, ne? Like, she failed to explain a frontline state in a public platform, guys. You can't claim to be a revolutionary, you can't claim to be in this revolution, but you don't even know what is a frontline state. You don't even know how are the states that assisted South Africa in apartheid being referred to. Mara, when you are claiming to be revolutionary, well, that's what you've ordered as South Africans. I guess you must chew it. Pegani president yen na yakhuluma.
Ms. Dubula, let me just ask an open-ended question. If I say frontline states, what comes to mind and what can you say in relation to that?
So now this is about the people. We have this freedom charter where Operation Dudula is entrenching the freedom charter that says people shall govern. And currently we don't have leaders. We are on autopilot, and that's where Operation Dudula comes in.
No, I'm asking about frontline states.
Frontline states. So this is about. Are you now taking this together with?
If I say to you frontline states, from a historical perspective, what comes to mind as we have this conversation?
The frontline states, I would believe it's about the people in power.
He obviously is also a frontline state. She obviously doesn't know what a frontline state is.
Apart from that, now we're having people like Abo Shabisa. It's not Shabisa speaking, it's elections speaking. Now Shabisa is saying that foreigners must go. I say South Africa.
It is actually criminal for any leader to can actually lead any South African political constituency without at least a basic grasp of history. I briefly watched only the clips and snippets of the interview of Zandile of Dudula operations, interviewer ENCA. And believe me, she don't even know what the frontline states were during when apartheid South Africa. Yet she lead a political constituency in the grassroots that characterize themselves as addressing the immigration problem. Yes, there's an immigration problem in South Africa, but then you can actually use the right channels because there's no border gates. You are not doing anyone any justice. If there's anything you are inflicting violence and you're provoking black people to fight amongst each other and self-hatred, the same thing that the apartheid government wanted from black people. That's why we had the likes of Askari. Some of the Askaris were South Africans, some were Zimbabwean, some were whatever. But Frontline states bridged that gap. That's why today you've got countries like Nigeria, the Frelimo of Mozambique, and all of this, even the Zimbabwean government provided assistance and refugee to South Africans. And I'm not saying that gives black people throughout the continent the right to come and disrespect South African laws and the constitution, to disrespect South Africans, to run cartels and human trafficking, But we cannot use the approach that so-called Dudula operation is operating on. You have got no basic grasp of historical materialism of your own country, since you say you're South African. If she's even South African, which I doubt, it's so disappointing. Like, even with that, I wonder what is going to happen if I'm going to watch the whole interview. It's so embarrassing. It's a disgrace.
Phofu, on the other hand, bethunana. Oh, imbi into eyenzeke kuZandile. uZandile is the leader of Operation Dudula. And uZandile, when she started Operation Dudula, I think she just wanted to have a movement. Then you guys planted ideas in her head, Uti, hey, we're gonna vote for you, wara wara, you can be a great leader, you can be our president. Now, you guys have put her in a corner. And it's embarrassing. Guys, running a country, politics is not based on one thing. You can't hear me saying one thing that you like, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, you're gonna be president. Now I'm deep believe what you guys are gonna vote for me. Nina. So Zandile Betunana was asked, Betunana, it's so embarrassing. Actually, I want you guys to listen for yourself. She was asked what comes into mind when she hears Frontline state, and I feel like ngevele wathi I don't know mna. Ngevele wathi please explain to me, I don't understand, or some, like, I feel like than answering something that you know that you don't know, I would prefer ubana nditi ubana, like, I don't know, like, tell me what you mean or something, like ungaphenduli ubuyazi ba awuyazi. Listen to what she said. I share Mzansi, but more than anything, I blame you guys. Nina wafaka omnye umntana phansi kwebhasi. What an embarrassment. These are the leaders that you want to vote for. Hey, this is our next great lead. These are the leaders that you guys want to vote for. These are your leaders. No wonder ni bita kangaka nje. No wonder ni nje. Listen to this.
Ms. Dubula, let me just ask an open-ended question. If I say frontline states, what comes to mind and what can you say in relation to that?
So now this is about the people. We have this Freedom Charter where Operation Dudula is entrenching the Freedom Charter that says people shall govern. And currently we don't have leaders. We are on autopilot, and that's where Operation Dudula comes in.
No, I'm asking about frontline states.
Frontline states. So this is about. Are you now taking this together with?
If I say to you frontline states, from a historical perspective, what comes to mind as we have this conversation?
The frontline states, I would believe it's about the people in power.
You obviously is a frontline state. Okay. She obviously doesn't know what a frontline state is.
I do also want to read the breakdown of Blessing Teho Ratilwe. She broke it down beautifully. She said, a frontline state refers to the countries in Southern Africa that were directly involved in the struggle against apartheid and colonial rule. These were nations such as Zambia, Tanzania, Mozambique, Botswana, Angola, and Zimbabwe, countries that supported liberation movements like the ANC, the PAC, and SWAPO by offering military bases, training, and political refuge when apartheid South Africa was still a brutal regime. So when someone can't even explain what a frontline state is, yet claims to speak for the people, it's clear they lack historical grounding and political consciousness. These are not leaders, they are opportunists who thrive on noise and fear-mongering. What's even more dangerous is that people like her are now targeting our healthcare systems, the one sector meant to save lives, not divide them. Instead of addressing the government's failures to equip hospitals and clinics, they turn ordinary citizens against healthcare workers and patients. That is not patriotism, it's ignorance disguised as. And then, just to continue reading from that post, she said, "You cannot build a better country on hatred and misinformation. A real leader understands his history, respects the constitution, and protects the dignity of every person, not just those who fit a certain narrative. Know your leaders." And shout out to you, already with this. You simplified it beautifully. Uzandile wenu ke. Uzandile wenu. Nizawuthini ke ngoku? Nizawuthini ke ngoku? Yo.
I've made one of my videos on the 13th of September this year where I was bold enough to even say Operation Dudula is an organization of barbaric people or barbarians. That's what I've said. And I'm still saying the same thing now. I'm saying this because I'm vindicated now. I mean, if you've got a leader that can go to national TV and fail to answer simple questions and you want to lead people, you want us to believe that you are genuine in your cause of trying to fight. You might be genuine, but you don't know what the what problems you are causing because you are so low in how you think. She is claiming that she's a leader, but a leader who cannot even answer a small thing. What is a frontline state? She's scraping everywhere looking for this answer, like a biology student who studied something else. What is a frontline state? Zandile Dubula couldn't answer that. She's talking about the Freedom Charter. She's talking about the country being on autopilot. Let's look at the Freedom Charter. Can we even debate Freedom Charter with Zandile Dubula? No, she has no clue what it is. But she brought it in. She brought it in when she was asked about the frontline state because she has no clue what the frontline state is. If the next question was, what is a Freedom Charter? She wouldn't have been able to answer that. She even went on to say the country is on autopilot. It's better the country being on autopilot than being led by a regressive leader by a regressive person, because a leader, she's not a leader. By a regressive person like her. She has no clue of anything. So it's better the country being flying by itself than her dragging it down with her nonchalant, not knowing how to even address, not knowing how to interact with other countries. Imagine such a leader. We've got a problem as a country that is so looking forward to a messiah. They will choose any damn thing to become their leader because they're looking for a messiah. And in no way am I saying this woman is not a good person. She's just not a leader. She's not even supposed to be leading anyone. She has no clue what is governance. She has no clue what is interaction with geopolitics. What is the interaction with global politics? She can't answer, for heaven's sake, what is a frontline state. And it's a good thing that she didn't answer that, because imagine if she had answered that. She would have shot herself or put herself in more trouble, because answering questions around the frontline state, which happened in the 1970s, that's Lesotho, Botswana, Zambia, Lesotho, Malawi, and so on. Those are the states that came together to fight apartheid. If she had answered that, she would have shot herself in the foot, because the next question would have been, though, what is your understanding about the relationship between South Africa now and those states? Which is a good that she failed to answer that question. But her understanding of Freedom Charter and autopilot is a mess. That's where she even says boldly, that's where Operation Dudula comes. Operation Dudula cannot come to anything. It's a group of nonchalant people who can't think about anything properly. These people cannot think about anything. All they are about is about fighting, and they're not fighting any genuine cause. It's a barbaric fight that they have because they have no clue. What is it to govern? What is it that needs to happen as a country, as a SADC, as a Africa, as a globe? We have no clue. No country can survive by itself. None. That's as a result, that's why the pertinent question which was asked to her by the journalist about the Frontline state, at least so that she could understand what was happening there. But hey, we can talk all day and night about Zandile Dubula and her people. I still say it's a group of barbaric people. It's a group of people that have no clue what they're doing. All they want to do is, they're bored. They want to just fight on the street. There's this belief amongst the Dudulians and the Dudula people that if the foreign nationals was to be chased out of the country, there would be jobs for them. Somehow they believe that. That's why this comment says, the day that we lose our jobs, we will remember what Dudula is doing. I don't believe that, because I've said, I think, in many videos that I don't think Dudula has analyzed and actually understood what was the problem in the employment. But I wanted to break it down, maybe, because they can't listen to it, or maybe if they were to listen to this video, they would understand. I've said previously, ESCOM employs people that are qualified, South Africans with skills. I've said Adcock, I have said Aspen, I've said the big pharmaceutical spaces, I've said Unilever, I've said Pick and Pay, I've said Checkers, the warehouse that Checkers, ShopRite makes food from, they employ South Africans. The shops themselves, you go to Checkers, you cannot find someone from another country selling there, South African. Pick and Pay, Usave, ShopRite, Spa, and so on. These things that I've raised, you look at MTN, Vodacom, SA Breweries, they are employing South Africans. Sasol, they are employing South African. Bidverse is one of the biggest employers in South Africa, which I think employs about 131,000 people. Still, it employs South Africans, from cleaners, from drivers, from technicians, and so on. Majority of these people that these companies that I've said now, they employ South Africans. Why am I saying this? I'm raising this so that it can be understood with no lie, with no story that will confuse people, that majority of the South African companies are employing South Africans. Those who have got the skill, the necessary skill to do the job that is required. The people that we are blaming, they are working at restaurants. Do we want to work at the restaurants? Some of us want to work at the restaurants, okay. But majority of us don't want to work at the restaurants. Majority of these people as well in the country who doesn't have papers, they are busy selling in the streets, selling oranges and narkies and avocados and so on. Do we want to do that? Majority of the people are doing plumbing work at people's housing, doing misilana, what we call plastering and so on, and bricklaying and so on. Majority of us, do we want to do that? I am saying this in a context that let's not lie to each other in terms of saying the shortage of employment or shortage of jobs because of the foreigners, because the company that employs, like I've said, the biggest employers are employing South African on scale. Having said that, let's now say, why are we as South Africa not employed? We're not employed because, and I've said before in a previous video that I've made, that it's because the economy is not growing at the pace that it's supposed to be growing. I said it's because we are not owning our economy. The economy is still in the hands of the few. So as a result, not much where employment can be created while money is still rotating among the very few hands. Two, we're not beneficiating our minerals. Our minerals are still, most of them, taken from South Africa as raw as they are to oversee China and so on, and they come back as a finished good. And those jobs which could have been created to beneficiate and to process the raw materials in the country, and then are the jobs which then resides in the other countries in Europe and so on, which could have been, whose fault is that? It's a South African government issue. The private sector is doing what they're supposed to be doing. The government as well, in the municipalities and so on, and then most of the government institutions, they are employing South African. Where are these foreigners being employed? I wanted to make this in context, my brother, so that you can understand that don't be lied to, don't be fooled by anyone. The biggest problem that we have as a country is our government. They're not doing enough to create so that the economy can grow, so that you can be absorbed. That's one. Two, we must blame ourselves. Majority of us, we didn't finish grade 12. Majority of the South African ran away from school, what skill do you have that is going to benefit this economy? Majority of the South Africans, they don't want to do odd jobs. What must happen then? So what? We're going to chase a maths teacher from Zimbabwe and employ you, Mduduzi, to come teach maths when you don't have grade 12? We must chase people that are coming with skill and then employ you when you don't have a skill. I don't understand, but I'm not saying in a bad way. I'm saying this is what it is. It is